Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to a Sunday night English Risale-i Nur class. Inshallah, today we will be reading from the 20th flash, which is on sincerity. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Merciful, the Compassionate. The verse, Verily, we sent the book down to you in truth. So worship Allah in sincerity, in ikhlas. For Allah is a sincerely practiced religion. And the noble saying of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, all men will perish except the scholars. All scholars will perish except those who act in accordance with their knowledge. And all of them will perish except the sincere, those with ikhlas. And even the sincere are in great danger. All men will perish except the scholars. All scholars will perish except those who act in accordance with their knowledge. And all of them will perish except the sincere, and even the sincere are in great danger. This verse from the Holy Quran and this hadith which we have just read demonstrate together how important a principle of Islam is ikhlas, sincerity. From among the innumerable points concerning ikhlas, we will briefly only expound 5. The first point, an important and awesome question. Why is it that while the worldly and the neglectful, the non-Muslims, the misguided and hypocrites cooperate without rivalry, whereas the people of religion, the religious scholars, and those who follow the Sufi path oppose each other in rivalry, although they are the people of truth and concord? Why is it that while the worldly and neglectful, the misguided and the hypocrites cooperate without rivalry, whereas the people of religion, the religious scholars, and those who follow the Sufi path oppose each other in rivalry, although they are people of truth and concord? Agreement belongs, in reality, to the people of concord, and disputes to the hypocrites. How is it that these two have changed places? Why are the hypocrites being in unison, and why are we, the ones with the truth, falling into dispute? The answer: we will set forth 7 of the extremely numerous causes of this painful, disgraceful, and awesome situation, one that causes the zealous to weep. Our current situation is explained beautifully here. It is painful, disgraceful, and awesome situation, one that causes the zealous to weep. The first, just as dispute among the people of truth does not arise from a lack of truth, so too agreement prevailing among the people of neglect does not arise from any possession of truth. Agreement prevailing among the people of neglect does not arise from any possession of truth. Rather, it is that a specific duty and particular function has been assigned to the classes in society, like the worldly, those engaged in politics, and those who have received a secular education, and thus the functions of the various groups, societies, and communities have been defined and become distinguished from one another. All different various groups and functions have been separated. Similarly, the material reward they are to receive for their functions in order to maintain a livelihood, as well as the moral reward, that consists in the attention they receive from men for the sake of their ambition and pride. This too is established and specified. Separated. There is nothing held in common to the degree that it might produce conflict, dissension, and rivalry. These different departments have nothing held in common to the degree that it might produce conflict, dissension, and rivalry. Everyone does their specific role, and everyone obtains the material reward for their specific role. There is no overlapping for them to actually have some conflict. However evil be the path that they tread, they will be able to preserve unity and agreements, because they all do their specific roles and serve towards a common goal. But as for the people of religion, the scholars, the Muslims, and those who follow the path of Islam, the duty of each is concerned with all men. It is not separated, it is whole. Their material reward is not set and not specified. Their share in social esteem and acceptance and public attention is not predetermined. There is no specific role set out. Many may be candidates for the same position. Many hands may stretch out for each moral and material reward that is offered. Hence, it is that conflict and rivalry arise. Concord, unity, is changed into discord, disunity, and agreement is changed into dispute. Now, the cure and remedy for this appalling disease is sincerity. Sincerity may be attained by preferring the worship of Allah to the worship of one's own nafs, by causing Allah's pleasure to vanquish the pleasure of the soul and the ego, and thus manifest the meaning of the verse. Verily, my reward is from Allah alone. By renouncing the material and moral reward to be had from men, and thus manifesting the meaning of the verse, naught is incumbent on the messenger but conveying the message. And by knowing that such matters as goodly acceptance, making a favorable impression, gaining the attention of mankind, gaining popularity, are God's concern and a favor from Allah. And they play no part in conveying the message, which is our own duty. And nor is gaining the attention of man necessary for us to convey our message, nor is one charged with gaining popularity. By knowing this, a person will be successful in gaining sincerity, otherwise it will vanish. By knowing that such matters as goodly acceptance, making a favorable impression, being held in high regard, gaining attention of other fellow men, gaining popularity, are God's concern. And if we do obtain these, they are a favor from Allah. And that they have no part in conveying the message. They play no significant parts in conveying the message of Islam, which is one's own duty, nor are they necessary for it. Nor is one charged with obtaining popularity, obtaining a favorable impression, gaining the attention of man. We are not charged with gaining these. By knowing this, a person will be successful in gaining sincerity and doing every act of worship sincerely for the sake of Allah and not for the sake of obtaining a favorable impression, gaining the attention of others, and becoming popular. By knowing this, a person will be successful in obtaining ikhlas, sincerity, otherwise it will vanish. The second cause. The agreement among the people of misguidance is on account of their abasement, and the dispute among the people of guidance is on account of their dignity. That is to say, the people of neglect, those misguided ones sunk in worldly concerns, those materialist, neglectful people are weak and abased because they do not rely on truth and reality. On account of their abasement, because of this abasement, because they do not rely on truth and reality, they need to augment, they need to solidify, build their strength because they are weak. And because of this need, they wholeheartedly embrace the aid and cooperation of others. Because by themselves, because they do not rely on truth and reality, they are weak. Therefore, because they are weak, they accept, wholeheartedly embrace the aid and cooperation of others to fulfill needs such as building wealth, building power, building control. Because without togetherness, they are weak. Even though the path they follow is misguidance, they preserve their agreement in order to stay strong. It is as if they were making their godlessness into a form of worship of the truth, their misguidance into a form of sincerity, their irreligion into a form of solidarity, and their hypocrisy into concord. And thus together they attain success through sincerity. For genuine sincerity, for genuine ikhlas, even for the sake of evil, yields results. For genuine sincerity, even for the sake of evil, cannot fail to yield results. Genuine sincerity, even for the sake of evil, yields results. And whatever man seeks with sincerity, with ikhlas, Allah will grant him it. As we also know from like the dua section, which we inshallah will read in the future. But as for the people of guidance and religion, the religious scholars and those who follow the Sufi path, since they rely upon truth and reality, and each of them on the road of truth, on the road of haqq, thinks only of his sustainer and trusts in his succor, they derive dignity from their belief. Because a Muslim on the road of truth thinks only of his sustainer and trusts in his sustainer, they derive dignity from their iman. When they feel weakness, they turn not towards other men like the disbelievers do, but towards Allah and seek help from Allah alone. On account of difference in Islamic outlook, they feel no real need for the aid of those whose outlook apparently opposes their own. And they see no agreement, no need for agreement and unity. Indeed, if obstinacy, stubbornness, and egoism is present as it is in this current day and age, in all of us, one will imagine himself and his Islamic outlook to be right, and the other Muslim brother's outlook to be wrong. And here, discord and rivalry, disunity and rivalry take the place of concord and love. Thus, the ikhlas is chased away. Its functions become disrupted. We cannot yield results because the sincerity is chased away and its functions disrupted. I'm going to read this part again because I feel like it's very important in our current day and age, because there is different Islamic outlooks all within the bounds of the Sunnah. But here, it explains so beautifully how not having the ability to accept another's outlook and join each other, it shows that when we oppose one another within Islam, it breaks our sincerity. Now, the only remedy for the critical consequences of this awesome state consists of 9 commands. 1. To act positively, that is, out of love for one's own outlook, avoiding the enmity for other outlooks, not criticizing them, interfering in the other's beliefs and sciences, or in any other way concerning oneself with them. To act positively, that is out of love for one's own outlook, avoiding enmity for other outlooks, not criticizing them, or interfering in their beliefs and sciences, or in any other way concerning oneself with them, having a positive, inclusive approach, understanding another's outlooks without criticizing him, understanding that you have many bonds which tie each other together. The way you do things may be different, but they are both the same. To unite within the fold of Islam, irrespective of particular outlook, remembering numerous ties of unity that evoke, bring out, build, love, brotherhood and concord. To adopt the just rule of conduct, that the follower of any right outlook, of any haqq accepted outlook, has the right to say, my outlook is true or the best. But that same person cannot say, my outlook alone is true, or that my outlook alone is good, thus implying the falsity and repugnance of all other outlooks. Again, this goes to the first one, which is to act positively, out of love for one's own outlook, avoiding enmity of other outlooks, not criticizing them, or interfering in their beliefs and sciences as long as they are within the fold of Islam and are accepted as correct through the Majlis Ulama. 4. To consider that union with the people of truth is a cause of divine succor and the high dignity of religion. Islam orders us to be in unity, to have a brotherhood. And this is to be done by considering the union with the people of truth is a cause of divine succor and the high dignity of religion. We must be unified. To realize that the individual resistance of the most powerful person against the attacks through its genius of the mighty collective force of the people of misguidance and falsehood, which arises from their solidarity, will inevitably be defeated. Regardless how perfect, how strong one individual is, in the face of the attacks, through its genius of the mighty collective force of disbelief, which arises from their solidarity, like we were mentioning before, how strong they are, one man will inevitably be defeated. But through the union of the people of the haqq of Islam, to create a joint collective force also, in order to preserve justice and right of that fearsome collective force of misguidance. Such as if one man was a beautiful soldier, he was unreal, obviously he will lose against an army. Because the army has solidarity and the individual just has himself. So that soldier must form his own army in order to fight another army. One man cannot take on an army himself. In order to preserve truth from the assaults of falsehood, to abandon the self and egoism, give up the mistaken concept of self-pride, which sadly we see in the Muslim world today, to seize all insignificant feelings aroused by rivalry. We must take pride in one another rather than have insignificant feelings aroused by rivalry. Disagreement among the people of truth does not arise from lack of zeal and aspiration, nor does union among the people of misguidance arise from loftiness of aspiration. Here we understand that even though the non-Muslims, the people of misguidance, may be very strong and unified, we understand that they are actually in essence very weak. The reason for their unity is because they are weak. That which impels the people of guidance is the misuse of the high aspiration, and hence to disagreements and rivalry is the desire for heavenly reward that is counted as a praiseworthy quality in respect of the hereafter. We have extreme eagerness with respect to duties pertaining to the hereafter, to the akhirah. As Muslims, we think to ourselves, let me gain this reward. Let me guide these people. Let these people listen to me. He takes up a position of rivalry towards another brother who is doing the same thing. He faces him and who stands in real need of his love, assistance, brotherhood and aid. Instead, he forms a rivalry with that brother, whereas that brother needs his love, assistance, brotherhood and aid, because on our own as individuals we are not strong enough. We need to support one another. But this brother who said, let me gain this reward, let me guide these people, let them listen to me, who wanted others to follow him, he says to himself, why are my pupils going to that brother? He says, why don't I have as many pupils or as popular as that other brother? He falls prey into egoism. He inclines to the chronic disease of ambition, loses all sincerity, and it opens the door to hypocrisy. The cure for this error, this wound, this awesome sickness of the spirits is the principle that Allah's pleasure is won by sincerity alone. Allah does not care if we have 1 billion people following us. Allah's pleasure is won by sincerity alone. Are we doing what we are doing for the sake of Allah? Because if we do it for the sake of the people, it's not really doing it for Allah, is it? The cure for this error, for this egoistic error, this wound, this awesome sickness which currently ravages the Muslim world, is the principle that Allah's pleasure is won by ikhlas alone, doing things only for the sake of Allah and nothing else, and not by a large following, not by aiming for a large following or a great success. For these latter are a function of God's will. A large following and great success cannot be demanded, although sometimes Allah can give these. Sometimes a single word will result in someone's salvation, and hence the pleasure of Allah. Quantity should not receive too much attention, for sometimes to guide one man to the truth may be as pleasing to Allah as guiding 1,000. Moreover, sincerity and adherence to the truth may require that one should desire the Muslims to benefit from anyone and from any place. To think, let them take lessons from me so I gain the reward, is a trick of the nafs and ego. To think, let them take lessons from me so that I gain the reward, is a trick of the soul, the nafs and the ego. The true achievement lies then not in gaining a vast following, but in gaining God's pleasure. There have been many prophets who had only a limited following, a small number of following. But those prophets received the infinite reward of the sacred duty of prophethood. His following did not impact him spreading his message. The true achievement lies then not in gaining a vast following, but in gaining God's pleasure. What do you imagine yourself to be that's saying, let everyone listen to me? You forget, I forget our functions, we forget our function, and we interfere in what is strictly God's concern. To gain acceptance for you and to have people gather around you is Allah's concern. It is not something that you can control. So look to your own duty and concern and do not meddle with Allah's concerns. But if God's pleasure and sincerity do not bring your words to life, they will not be heard, and reward will only be had for the single utterance made by your mouth. And those who are insincere will always be unsustainable. It will never continue beyond a certain generation. It will always, because the support of Allah is not with that person, because it is insincere, it will not flourish. We must be proud of the company of all those traveling the path of haqq, of truth, in accordance with the principle of love for Allah's sake. To follow them and defer leadership, give them leadership to them. Consider whoever is walking on Allah's path to be probably better than yourself, thereby breaking, humbling the ego and regaining ikhlas and sincerity. Salvation is also to be had from that disease by knowing that an ounce of deeds performed in sincerity, small amount of deeds performed with true sincerity, is preferable to a ton performed without sincerity. And by preferring the status of a follower to that of a leader, with all the danger and responsibility that it involves. Thus, sincerity is to be had, and one's duties of preparation for the hereafter may be correctly performed. O people of truth, O people of the law, people of reality, and people of Islam, all worshipping Allah, confronted by this awesome disease of disunity and discord, overlook each other's faults. Close your eyes to each other's shortcomings. Behave according to the rule of courtesy established by the criteria that is in the Quran. When they pass by error, they pass by it with honorable avoidance. Regard this as your primary duty, one on which your state in the hereafter depends. Abandon internal dissension, abandon internal conflict when attacked by an enemy from the outside. Abandon our inner conflicts when we are attacked by disbelief, and thereby to deliver the people of truth from their abasement and humiliation. Let's protect our Muslims by being strong together rather than being disunified and looking for strength in other places apart from our Muslim brothers. Practice brotherhood, love and cooperation insistently, which are enjoined by hundreds of Quranic verses, which is ordered to us in the Quran and in the Sunnah of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Establish with all your powers a union with your fellows and brothers in religion that is stronger than the union of the worldly. Do not fall into dispute. Do not say to yourself, instead of spending my valuable time on such petty matters, let me spend it on more valuable things, such as the invocation of God and meditation, then withdrawing and weakening unity. Do not say to yourself, instead of spending my valuable time on such petty matters, such as inciting love between brotherhood, in socializing with Muslim brothers, building a unified front among the Muslims. If you say, instead of spending my valuable time on socializing with other Muslims, let me spend it on more valuable things, such as the invocation of Allah, such as doing tasbih and meditation. By doing so, you withdraw and weaken the unity. O people of the truth and the path, the service of the truth is like carrying and preserving a great weighty treasure. Those who carry that trust on their shoulders will be happy and grateful whenever powerful hands rush to their aid. Far from being jealous, one should proudly applaud the superior strength, effectiveness and capacity of those who in upright love and come forward to offer their help. Why then look on true brothers and self-sacrificing helpers in the spirit of rivalry, thus losing sincerity? If our car stopped in the middle of the road and we were pushing it alone, and all different people came to help us, would we be looking at them and saying, wow, this guy is more stronger than me, and being having enmity towards him when he is helping you? Would you have a rivalry for someone who is helping to push your car forward? Or would you be in admiration for him being strong and being able to help you in your situation? Is this logical to hate one another when we are all working towards the same goal? Why do we constantly have this conflict when we are working towards the same goal? you will be exposed to fearsome accusation in the eyes of the people of misguidance, such as pursuing worldly interests through religion. The misguided ones will look down upon us for not enjoining with our own brothers. They will laugh at our small conflicts, even though it is something 100 times lower than you and your belief, earning your livelihood through the knowledge of truth and rivaling others in greed and acquisitiveness. The sole remedy for this disease is to accuse your own soul before others. Always to take the side of your Muslim brother, not your own nafs. The rule of truth and equity established by the scholars of the art of debate is this: whoever desires in a debate on any subject that his own words should be true, whoever is happy that he turns out to be right and his enemy is wrong and mistaken, such a person has acted unjustly. Not only that, such a person loses, for when he emerges the victor in such debates, he has not learned anything from rivalry and being correct, because he had already previously known to him, and his pride will cause him further loss. But if his adversary turns out to be right, he will have gained some knowledge, something which he did not know, and thereby gained something without any loss. He was helped by his Muslim brother in this debate, as well as being saved from pride. If then the people of religion, the people of truth, the people of the path, and the people of learning take this principle of ikhlas as their guide, they will attain sincerity. We will be successful in those duties which prepare us for this world and the hereafter. Through Allah's mercy, they will be delivered from this appalling wretchedness and misfortune for which we sadly presently suffer. Through Allah's mercy, after obtaining ikhlas, the Muslims will be delivered from this appalling wretchedness and misfortune from which they presently suffer. Glory be unto you. We have no knowledge save that which you have taught us. Indeed, you are all knowing, all wise. May Allah allow us to be those who are of the sincere and who strive to form unity. Allah Azza wa Jalla al-Fatiha.